The Millionaire and the Beggar Woman's Tale. Eli Johnson was invisible. It was a strange sort of superpower, the kind that trapped you in a loop, a cycle of mops and brooms, of sparkle and shine in the headquarters of global tech. Here in the heart of Silicon Valley, gleaming towers stroked the sky, all chrome and glass, but Eli found herself stuck in the shadows. An unremarkable custodian, she was just a cog in this vast machine. Her existence fading amid the lofty ambitions and wild dreams of those who walked above her. But today was different. Today, she had been summoned, her name slipping through the cracks of indifference like a whisper. Victor Wells, the millionaire, the icon, was to host a panel discussion, and Eli had been selected for an interview. The room was pristine, sterile even, with slick lines and cold white walls. She shuffled in, her heart racing. The air thick with ambition and unspoken judgments. Oppressive. She could feel the weight of the corporate hierarchy. "So, tell me about your thoughts on global tech," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. But Eli wasn't just an echo in the background. She took a breath, the tension pooling in her stomach, and responded. Global tech is more than technology. It's about the people. Her voice softened yet grew stronger, fueled by the undercurrents of her own experience. She spoke of the employees, their struggles, their dreams, and the silent battles that raged behind the glinting facades. Those dismissive eyes widened briefly as she continued, revealing a depth of knowledge that shocked the room into silence. "I see bright minds, but there's a darkness. Why do some voices always seem to be muffled?" Eli asked, each word hitting the air like a drumbeat. It was at this moment, raw honesty spilling into the corporate veneer, that something shifted. She shared her story, growing up overlooked, navigating a world designed for the loud, the wealthy, the bold. While she remained steadfast, Eli felt a fire spark inside her, rippling through the crowd, catching hearts off guard. The walls fell silent, and the weight of her truth hung like an unbroken promise over their heads. Just as she finished, the world outside erupted. Eli's words ignited a viral phenomenon, a social media storm that swept across platforms. The following days left her sitting on a whirlwind, receiving an offer to become the director of social impact. It felt surreal, an opportunity to bring real change, not for her own ambition, but for those who dared to dream quietly. Yet doubts crawled in as she stepped into this bold role. Could she catalyze the transformations she envisioned? Or would the very structures that had held her down resist her efforts? Eli stood at the crossroads, a tumult of emotions swirling around her. As she gazed into the horizon of possibility, a nagging question lingered. How could one voice, amidst a cacophony, truly reshape a corporation lost in its excess? Hey, before. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Eli stood at the edge of the corporate landscape, her heart pounding against her ribs. The offer to become the director of social impact hung heavy on her mind, a golden ticket wrapped in doubt. But suddenly, a loud commotion emerged from the panel stage, cutting through her thoughts like a hot knife through butter. Victor was talking, or rather, shouting now. "This is unacceptable. We cannot have this kind of thing in my company." The room froze. It felt like someone had pressed the pause button on life. Eli's stomach dropped, His voice was laced with urgency, tinged with something else. Fear. A figure rushed onto the stage. A young woman, her face ashen, eyes wide with shock. "Victor, it's about the report!" she gasped, breathless. Eli could feel the crowd shift uneasily. Whispers crisscrossed the room like wildfire. Was this related to her? "What report?" Victor barked, his brows knitting in frustration. The young woman hesitated, clearly torn between loyalty and the gravity of what she had to say. The tension thickened, pressing into Eli's chest. With each heartbeat, it felt like time was pulling apart. "It's the environmental impact audit. It wasn't just a mistake. It was manipulated." The words burst forth, and the air went electric. Eli felt a shockwave ripple through the audience. Gasps echoed. Whispers turned to shouts, casting a pall over the previously polished atmosphere. "Manipulated? What do you mean?" Victor's voice was low now, trembling on the edge of anger. "The numbers. They were changed." The young woman's voice cracked, tears pooling in her eyes. "To show compliance. To hide the truth from the investors." Eli's vision narrowed as reality spun around her. Her breath hitched. She understood. The shadows she had felt, those muffled voices of struggle, were deeper than she'd imagined. This was bigger than tech gadgets and fancy boardrooms. This was about lives, real lives being overlooked for profit. The whispers in the crowd escalated into a ruckus. People shifted uncomfortably, the divide between wealth and ethics clearer than ever. "You were complicit, Victor," someone shouted from the back, anger piercing the air like a dart. Eli's heartbeat thrummed loudly in her ears, drowning out the chaos around her. Her role in this sprawling corporation was intertwined with these unfolding events, and suddenly, every question she had about the company felt dawning. What kind of impact could she bring when the foundation beneath her feet was crumbling? Doubts clawed at her insides. Victor's face turned from anger to disbelief, his empire of dreams teetering. "That's absurd! I would never!" The disbelief in his voice cracked, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. The feathers of his golden image ruffled. "Then who?" the young woman cried, her voice rising above the din. "You need to take responsibility. You can't silence this." Eli's pulse raced. The weight of the moment surged around her, a pivotal intersect of truth. Someone needed to step forward, to claim what was right in the mess of chaos. But could it be her? The crowd's murmur shifted to a roar of questions and accusations. Eyes darted around, searching for a fall guy, as fingers pointed straight at Victor. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation, and Eli felt a strange pull to step into the light. But as she opened her mouth to speak, a notification pinged on her phone. Instinctively, she glanced down. A name flashed on the screen. CEO, emergency meeting. Her heart plummeted in her chest. She wasn't just a custodial worker anymore. She had become part of this corporate machine, entwined in a drama she'd never asked for. Then, she looked back up, Victor's composure cracking further, a realization flooding through her. Did he know? Was he hiding more than just figures? Eli took a breath, her resolve solidifying. In this moment, everything was shifting, and the fragile threads of trust and betrayal hung in the air, ripe with tension, waiting for her to decide. Would she stand with him, or dig deeper into something that could change everything? Eli took a breath, her resolve solidifying. In this moment, everything was shifting. The fragile threads of trust and betrayal hung in the air, ripe with tension, waiting for her to decide. Would she stand with him, or dig deeper into something that could change everything? But before she could speak, the room's atmosphere thinned. Like the pause before a storm, a sharp sound sliced through. The panel monitors flickered, and the lights dimmed. Panic erupted, a wave of confusion crashing over the crowd like a tide. Then came the boom, a deafening crack that shook the very foundations of the space. Everyone turned toward the commotion, eyes wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. The walls seemed to tremble. Eli's heart raced, an instinctive dread washing over her. She felt it deep in her bones. Something was very wrong. Suddenly, there came a flash, a blinding light, and then smoke swirled through the air, chaotic and thick, wrapping around them like a shroud. Screams erupted from every corner of the room. People scrambled for the exits, hands clawing, expressions of sheer terror etched onto their faces. Eli's instinct urged her to move, to find cover, but curiosity anchored her feet. What was happening? What had she stepped into? In the midst of the chaos, Victor staggered, his proud facade shattered, stumbling back as he clutched the podium. "What is this?" he yelled, but his voice trembled, revealing a flicker of fear that Eli had never seen before. And then, as if in slow motion, the smoke began to clear. A figure materialized through the haze, silhouetted and ominous, a silhouette Eli didn't recognize. The crowd recoiled, whispers erupting like wildfire again. "What do you want?" someone shouted, the tension snapping like an overstretched wire. "Victor!" the voice rang out, sharp and echoing, a familiar tone but laced with an undertone that sent a chill down Eli's spine. As the figure stepped forward, a gasp rippled through the room. It was Marcus, Victor's long-lost brother, presumed dead after a corporate scandal years ago. Shock froze Eli where she stood. Could it really be him? The stories had blurred over time. No one had known what had happened since that pivotal moment. But here he was, alive. "Hiding in your glass towers, Victor?" Marcus sneered, eyes glittering with a mix of anger and something darker. "Did you really think you could erase me? Erase the truth?" Victor's face blanched. "This isn't the place for this, Marcus." Panic edged his tone, panic that transformed into rage. "You'll ruin everything!" With swift footsteps, Marcus advanced. "I've waited too long. You played with lives, Victor. We all lost everything because of you." Eli's breath hitched. The gravity of things was unraveling right before her eyes. This wasn't just about numbers anymore. This was family, betrayal, and an exposed truth that threatened to pull the whole corporation down. She understood then. This was deeper than she had ever imagined. And then the twist came. A revelation so shocking that Eli felt her knees weaken. "The manipulation," Marcus said, his voice rising above the noise. "Victor did it on purpose. He wanted to silence me because I was going to expose him just like I am now." Gasps splintered through the audience. Horror etched on every face. Eli's head spun. Victor, the golden boy of the corporate world, was a villain, a puppet master cloaked in charm. The ground beneath her world shifted like a broken foundation. She'd just been handed a ticket to every truth she'd ever sought, and it was far worse than she had feared. Marcus paused, his eyes scanning the crowd, filled with confused faces. "Maybe, just maybe, you'll listen now that this wasn't just about standing tall. It was about unearthing darkness, about taking a chance on real change." But before she could process this wild truth, the lights flickered again, and the sound of sirens cut through the air, echoing like a death knell. Flashing blue and red lights seeped in from the windows, illuminating the chaos. Her decision loomed heavy, but she felt the weight of a world holding its breath. What would she choose? Standing before the shattering truth, Eli realized she was no longer just a custodian, but a pivotal player in an unraveling drama that could redefine everything. As the chaos unfolded around them, she couldn't shake the overwhelming feeling that the real battle was just beginning. The sirens wailed louder, the blue and red lights reflecting off the walls like a heartbeat of chaos. Eli stood frozen, uncertainty crashing over her. Marcus's words echoed in her mind, heavy and unsettling. Victor, the man she saw as a champion, was hiding secrets. Eli felt a tightness in her chest, her breath shallow and quick. Victor's face twisted with fear, and for the first time, she saw the mask slipping. "This isn't what it looks like," he shouted, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. But the eyes of the audience, wide and terrified, looked beyond him. "Not what it looks like?" someone barked. "You're a fraud!" The words struck at the heart of the corporate facade, sending ripples through the room. Eli's fingers trembled as she clutched the armrest of her chair, absorbing the chaos. Marcus stepped closer, a storm brewing in his eyes. "I lost everything because of you, Victor. This time, I'm not backing down." He brandished something shiny, something that glimmered in the chaos. Eli squinted as he raised it higher, realization flooding through her like ice water. It was a flash drive. "What?" Eli's voice barely escaped her throat. The stakes were climbing, spiraling out of control. "I have proof," Marcus declared, his tone a fuse ready to ignite. "Proof of everything you did. The manipulation, the lies, everything." The room buzzed, confusion intertwining with outrage. Victor stepped back, a surge of panic coloring his cheeks. "You can't. You don't understand the impact this'll have." Impact. Eli felt that word thud in her chest. What about her own impact? Her choice now seemed larger than herself. Would the truth finally see the light? But just as she prepared to step forward, ready to grab hold of her newfound purpose, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps exploded. Fear dripped like rain. Then the screens around them flared back to life, but instead of corporate graphics, a video began to play. Eli's heart sank, every beat turning heavy like lead. Her own face appeared on the screen. Her interview. Her passionate words about the struggles of the people, cut into snippets of moments long gone. Comments surged through the audience. "Who leaked this? Did she betray us?" Eli felt the warmth of shame flood her cheeks. The raw honesty she had once felt was being exploited right before her eyes. The screen cycled through clips of her words, echoed in Victor's sinister tone, twisting her truth. "Eli, you have to get it together," Victor yelled, scrambling frantically. "This isn't about you. It's about saving my company." But she was paralyzed, caught between fear and fury. The narrative was shifting, a whirlwind of chaos and confusion, pinning her to the ground. Marcus's demand and Victor's desperation forged a terrifying reality. The lights returned, but the tension didn't dissolve. Instead, it thickened like an impending storm ready to break. Eli's mind raced. And then, in a shocking flash, amidst the outcry, she felt a connection. Someone behind her. Someone she recognized. She turned slightly, a familiar face slicing through the crowd of chaos. It was her mother, a face from the past, but somehow clear and present, moving through the wretched existence of her daughter's life. Eli's heart stopped. What was she doing here? "Mom?" Eli's voice wobbled, disbelief gripping her tight. Eli's mother met her gaze, eyes brimming with a storm of unspoken stories. "It's time to wake up, Eli," she said, voice steady, despite the clamor around. You need to know the truth about everything. The ground shifted beneath her once more, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. Eli's thoughts swirled into an abyss of confusion. What truth? What truth had she hidden from herself? And then the sirens continued to wail, a relentless reminder of the chaos encasing them, leaving Eli standing at a precipice of discovery. The truth was far more complicated than she'd ever realized. And in this moment, she knew one thing. Everything was just beginning to unfold, darker and deeper than she ever thought possible. Eli stood before her mother, the chaos swirling around them. Her heart thudded in her chest. "Mom, why are you here?" The words barely escaped, trapped in disbelief. "I came to warn you, Eli," her mother said, voice steady against the rising storm. "You're in more danger than you realize." But before Eli could process that, a new wave of urgency rippled through the room. A loud crash rang out. From behind the podium, a figure stumbled forward, breathless. It was Claire, the head of the company's PR team, face pale and panic-stricken. "They've breached the building," Claire shouted, eyes wild. "Security is scrambling. We have to evacuate." Fear ignited. The crowd surged, people pushing toward the exits with desperation. Eli's mind raced. What breach? Why now? Instinct pulled her to stay, to understand this unfolding chaos, but she felt her mother's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "Eli, we need to go," her mother urged, eyes darting toward the growing panic. But even as they turned, a deep voice broke through the noise, capturing attention like a sudden crack of thunder. "Stop!" It was Victor, standing firm, a cornered look on his face. "Everyone back away. This is a serious matter." No one budged. Eyes were glued to him, emotions swirling, anger, fear, betrayal. Eli could see it in their faces. The line had been drawn. "Victor, you're not in control anymore," someone yelled from the back. But Victor's gaze remained fixed on Marcus, who towered confidently, flash drive still glinting like a weapon. "You can't do this," Victor shouted, voice rising. "You want to destroy me, destroy everything we built?" With a sudden, sharp twist, Marcus pointed the drive at the monitors. "Let everyone see what you've hidden, brother." The crowd hesitated, breath held tight. Eli watched as he pressed a button. Screens blinked, showing flashes of chaos and darkness. And then, horror unfolded. A video began to play, images flickering wildly. The screen displayed documents, images of people, former employees, whistleblowers, and then Eli's own father. Eli's heart dropped. "No, it can't be. Your father wasn't just a casualty. He was a threat," Marcus yelled, voice booming. "And you," he pointed at Eli, "were sent here to cover it up." Gasps sliced through the audience. Eli felt the world spin, the room blurring around her. Memories crashed in. Her father, the late nights, the hushed conversations about what went wrong. She thought he'd been a victim of misfortune. But it was more than that. "No," Eli whispered, shaking her head, denial curling around her. "This can't be true." Victor's face twisted in fury, picking apart every shaky piece of his control. "Shut this down." "My son!" he screamed, hands trembling. "This is sabotage." But the people were restless now, turning on him, uncertainty melting into outrage. "You lied to us all," someone yelled, voice thick with emotion. "You used us." Amidst the uproar, Eli felt a pulse of clarity. Her mother had said it. The danger was far greater than she had ever imagined. "What have you kept hidden from us, Victor?" she yelled, her own voice rising above the din. The words fell heavy, sharp with meaning. But before Victor could respond, the building shuddered, a sudden crudely force that rattled the walls. Screams erupted again, but this time it wasn't just fear. It felt like something catastrophic had shifted. Then the lights flickered and sputtered. The monitors went black. Panic crashed like a wave, everyone scrambling for the exit. But the sirens blared louder, drowning everything out. A deafening alarm drew the energy of the room into a frenzy. The lights surged back, and what should have been chaos turned into alarming silence, frozen in time. Eli's thoughts raced. What now? What was truly at stake? And then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, and Eli squinted against the glare. It couldn't be. Eli. The voice was hauntingly familiar. Her blood ran cold. Nick? He was supposed to be gone, but here he stood, a ghost come alive. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, dread creeping in as he stepped forward. Not without reason, he replied, a smirk tugging at his lips. I came to settle old scores. Prior to this moment, everything felt contained, predictable even. But now, as she stood staring at Nick, her past, her erased memories, it felt like the ground was falling from beneath her once again. The truth had never been so tangled, yet so close to unraveling. Eli's heart raced, weight settling in her chest like lead. She was lost, teetering on the edge of a terrifying abyss as the screen flickered once more, revealing dots of light dancing wildly as if hinting at the chaos still to come. Eli stood, frozen, staring at Nick, her past reaching out like a ghost, the chaos wrapped around them, tension ringing in the air. What are you doing here? She finally managed, voice trembling. But before Nick could answer, a sharp crack echoed through the room. A loud slam reverberated, rattling the walls. Eyes darted toward the source of the noise. There, a large window shattered, glass spraying onto the floor like dangerous confetti. The crowd gasped, horror painted across every face. Mac, Victor yelled, rushing towards the window. What's happening? A figure emerged through the glass, silhouetted against the chaos. Dark clouds rolled outside, casting eerie shadows. It was Mac, a high-ranking security officer who had been a loyal soldier to Victor, yet now bore an uneasy smile. Victor, we need to talk, Mac shouted, his voice booming. The crowd was frozen, tension thickening as he stepped closer. You can't hide this anymore. You set all of this in motion. Eli's heart raced. What did he mean? She felt her world tilt on its axis, a spinning top ready to fall. But there was something in Mac's tone, a sense of urgency, almost desperate. I'm not the enemy here. Please, listen, Mac pressed, panting, eyes wild. This goes deeper. Your father, he uncovered things. A collective gasp ripped through the room, the words hanging like a heavy fog. Eli felt the familiar sting of that name, drawing out old wounds. Her father had been the reason she was here. Yet now, he was the center of this unfolding chaos. Victor's face tightened, shadowed by deepening clouds of rage. You're lying, he snapped, but Eli caught the flicker of fear in his eyes. No, I'm telling the truth, Mac insisted, stepping closer until his face turned pale. You thought you could bury this forever? You got into bed with the wrong people, Victor. A collective murmur rippled through the audience. The weight of his accusation shattered the silence. Eli's fingertips tingled, the air crackling with the electric pulse of a brewing storm. Stop this madness, Victor shouted, voice slicing through the commotion. But inside, Eli felt a change. She wanted to know. The truth was stepping out of the shadows, brushing against her like a whisper. Your father wasn't just a casualty, Mac yelled, eyes wide and glistening with pent-up emotion. He was the key, a whistleblower. He found out about everything, the manipulation, the lies. He was silenced, Eli. No! Eli's plea resonated, painful yet desperate. How could this be true? The air felt thick with disbelief. You're saying my father was involved? As if sensing her turmoil, Nick took a step forward. Eli, listen to him. Victor's games have consequences. You were always meant to find out. The truth dripped from his words like poison, ringing like a death knell. Silence fell, heavy like a blanket, as Bull eyes shifted between Eli and Victor. She felt a tightening grip around her throat. Faces blurred, voices faded. Suddenly, a loud explosion ripped through the room, rocking the very foundation. The energy shifted, lights flickering ominously. Panic surged as shadows danced and the monitors flickered to life again. But this time, they revealed something else. Video feeds of Victor's meetings with underworld figures. A spiral of corruption, the ties that bound him in a web of deceit. Eli's breath caught, her heart hammering in her chest. It was too much. As Eli recoiled, the weight of a world crashing, a loud siren echoed, but it felt distant, like a lullaby. Mac, Eli whispered, trembling, piecing together fragments of shattered trust. What was real? What was a lie? Suddenly, Victor hurled a chair across the room, fury cascading from him. This isn't over! He glared at Mac, fury morphing into desperation. You think you can just blow everything up? With the sound of a gunshot, heavy, echoing, the room stilled. All eyes raced to the source, a crack ringing in the air like a bell tolling. Mac fell, clutching his chest, blood blossoming across his shirt. Shock swept through the crowd like wildfire. Eli's heartbeat thundered, pain locking her body in place. Victor looked down, wide-eyed, frozen in disbelief, and in that moment, everything changed. The truth twisted around her, binding her in chains forged by lies and betrayal. She was tangled among shadows, and as she trembled, a single thought roared. Who could she trust? The air thickened with uncertainty, foreboding darting like shadows across her heart. The game had shifted, the stakes higher than she could have imagined. But one thing was clear. The past was alive. And it wanted to claim her too. Eli stood in shock, her heart pounding against her ribs as chaos swirled around her. Mac lay on the ground, his body limp, and in that moment, time seemed to freeze. The crowd gasped, fear gripping them, a cold wave of panic washing over the room. Eli felt the heat of their collective horror, as if it were a heavy blanket suffocating her. Victor stood frozen, eyes wide, reflecting the reality he'd tried to control. Mac. Get up, he shouted, desperation clawing at his voice. But Mac didn't move, and Eli felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The truth was spiraling, dancing dangerously close to them all, and Victor was losing grip fast. But before anyone could fully process what was happening, there came a sharp, frenetic sound from the back of the room, a muffled scream, and the familiar clatter of a heavy door slamming open. Eli turned, adrenaline coursing through her. A team of masked intruders rushed into the space, armed and moving quickly, cutting through the crowd like a knife. Get down! Everyone down! One of them barked, voice harsh and commanding. A man that looked strangely familiar led them, his dark hair slicked back, eyes piercing through the chaos. Eli recognized him. It was Tony, a tech investor she'd once met at a conference, whose charm was rivaled only by his ambition. But now, he wore the mask of something else. Something darker. "Eli!" Tony shouted, moving toward her, his eyes blazing with fervor. "This is bigger than you know. You need to come with me." "What?" Eli stammered, confusion unraveling her. "Why? What do you mean?" But before Tony could answer, Victor stepped in front of her, desperation morphing his face into something unrecognizable. "Stay away from her," he yelled, fists clenching at his sides. "Victor, you don't understand. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about all of us." Tony snapped back, gesturing wildly at the frightened crowd. "Eli, trust me. They're coming for all of you." "Who's coming?" Eli blocked out Victor's frantic pleas, her mind racing. But before answers could come, a loud explosion erupted outside. The building shook as if the ground itself was falling apart. A tremor rippled through the room, and Eli stumbled, barely catching herself on a nearby chair. Smoke began to billow in, thick and suffocating. "Out! Everyone out!" Mac's eyes shot open, urgency igniting within him, even as he clutched his wound. "We need to move now." Eli felt panic claw at her throat. She glanced between Victor, whose face was now colored with fear and desperation. Tony, a potential ally, but also a threat, and the crowd, a sea of confusion. "Eli, come with me!" Tony shouted again, voice cutting through the noise. And then everything fell away in an ear-piercing silence, parting like an old curtain, revealing a hidden stage. A figure stepped through the smoke, tall and imposing, backlit by the emergency lights. It was Grace, Eli's mentor, her fierce protector during the early days. But she was different now. Eyes cold and sharp as daggers. "Enough games, Victor," Grace said, her tone icy. "They need to know everything." Eli's heart stumbled, confusion mounting like a tempest. "What do you mean? What is happening?" she cried, but her words felt lost in the uncertainty thickening around her. "Your father wasn't just a casualty, Eli." Grace's voice rang with a weight that felt like a death sentence. "He was part of something so much darker than you could ever imagine. You've been part of it all along, whether you knew it or not." Eli felt that knot in her stomach tighten, anger and betrayal coursing through her veins. "What are you saying?" Before Grace could answer, a flash of recognition flickered in Eli's mind like an old movie reel spinning back to life. The whispers of her childhood, buried deep, started to resurface. Secrets tightly held in family and friendship. No, she whispered, stepping back. "Mac knows it too. He's not who you think he is." Grace continued, piercing through the fog. "He wants to protect you, but the truth is, you're in far deeper than you realize." Just like that, the foundations of Eli's world cracked wide open. All the relationships she had trusted now seemed warped, twisted. Her heart raced, pieces falling into place. The lies, the cover-ups, the people she thought she could believe. And in that moment, as reality swirled around her, Eli understood one undeniable truth. This wasn't just a fight for her life. This was a war of everyone she had ever trusted, a battleground ripe with deception. "Eli, don't listen to her," Victor shouted, panic breeding in his eyes. "She's manipulating you." But as the crowd buzzed with anxiety and the room trembled, Eli felt as if the ground was swallowed beneath her. A whirlwind of emotions engulfed her thoughts. Had everyone deceived her? Was anyone truly innocent? To answer these questions would be to open Pandora's box. And right now, Eli stood at the very edge, heart pounding, aware that one wrong move could unravel everything she held dear. She looked around, feeling the weight of every choice, every relationship, every secret, and she knew this was just the beginning. Eli shook her head, trying to make sense of it all. The chaos danced like smoke in the air, her mind racing with doubt and fear. Victor's eyes darted, haunted, while Grace stood firm, declaring truths that felt like arrows to her heart. She could see the fear reflected in the faces of those around her, whispers spinning like a whirlwind. "Eli, don't let her twist the narrative," Victor pleaded, voice breaking slightly, desperation pouring from him. "She's using you." But Mac's body on the ground drew her attention. Blood stained the floor, vivid against the cold tiles. The ambiance shifted, thickening with palpable tension. "Get him some help!" Someone screamed, voice cracking through the noise, but no one moved. They were paralyzed by fear, transfixed to the scene unfolding before them. Tony sidled closer, planting himself between Eli and Victor. "We need to get out of here now," he urged, panic slicing through his bravado. Something in his eyes held her, a fierce determination, a hint of sincerity. "They're not just coming for him. They'll want you too." Eli's heart thudded louder, each beat a reminder of the danger. "What are you talking about?" she shot back, trying to keep her voice steady. But the tremble betrayed her. But before Tony could answer, the explosion rocked the room again, making the walls shudder. A cacophony of screams broke out as pieces of the ceiling crumbled, dust raining down like ashes. Victor's gaze shot toward the entrance, where shadows lurked and panic flickered like a candle about to go out. "There's no time. We have to move," Victor barked again, soberness catching between the urgency of the moment. And then, against the chaos, an ominous sound broke through, the sharp click of a gun being cocked. All heads turned. A figure emerged from the haze, clad in black, face obscured. "Stop right there," he barked, weapon trained on Victor, the air thickening with danger. The crowd froze, collective breaths hitching in their throats. "What the hell?" Eli gasped, bracing herself against the drama unfolding. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but she couldn't tear her gaze away. "Put the gun down," Victor shouted, shock ripping through his voice. "You don't know what you're doing." But the stranger only smirked, eyes glinting with malicious triumph. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, Victor. It's time for the truth to come out." Eli's stomach dropped. "What truth?" The figure took a step forward. "You think this is about money or betrayal?" He glanced toward the audience. "This is about family. You thought you could silence me forever?" A wave of recognition hit her, a jolt of familiarity. "Marcus?" Eli breathed. Realization dawned like a harsh spotlight. "But how?" "Surprise, Eli," he sneered, replacing anger with what felt like twisted satisfaction. "You're never safe. Not here. Not anywhere." The crowd gasped collectively, breaths hitching. Then came the thunderous blast from outside, louder and closer, shaking the building to its core. Eli stumbled, grappling for balance, as a second explosion ripped through the air. Smoke billowed in, thick and choking, engulfing everything. Darkened silhouettes, swirling like phantoms. Victor shouted for calm, but his voice drowned beneath the rising chaos. Eli felt trapped, her heart pounding furiously against her ribcage. And then, the true twist. "Eli," Marcus said, voice dripping with malicious glee, "you're not just a bystander. They set you up to take the fall. All your life, they've been using you like a pawn in a game." A wave of betrayal crashed over her, choking her. "What do you mean? How could this be?" And just as everything threatened to collapse, the world tilted. The walls gave way, an avalanche of betrayal burying her under the weight of truth. As the chaos swirled, a new realization hit. She wasn't the only pawn here. Victor's eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare!" The lights flickered, and for a moment, everything stood still. Eli could feel the tension wrapping around her like a noose. What's going on? But instead of clarity, darkness embraced them. Crumbling shadows blurred the lines of trust, leaving Eli gasping in fear. How deep did the treachery go? As Marcus raised his gun, she stumbled backward, breathless, immersed in the swirling chaos where loyalties shattered and identities twisted. Eli shook her head, trying to make sense of it all. The chaos danced like smoke in the air, her mind racing with doubt and fear. Victor's eyes darted, haunted, while Grace stood firm, declaring truths that felt like arrows to her heart. She could see the fear reflected in the faces of those around her, whispers spinning like a whirlwind. "Eli, don't let her twist the narrative," Victor pleaded, voice breaking slightly, desperation pouring from him. "She's using you." But Mac's body on the ground drew her attention. Blood stained the floor, vivid against the cold tiles. The ambiance shifted, thickening with palpable tension. "Get him some help," someone screamed, voice cracking through the noise. But no one moved. They were paralyzed by fear, transfixed to the scene unfolding before them. Tony sidled closer, planting himself between Eli and Victor. "We need to get out of here now," he urged, panic slicing through his bravado. Something in his eyes held her, a fierce determination, a hint of sincerity. "They're not just coming for him. They'll want you too." Eli's heart thudded louder, each beat a reminder of the danger. "What are you talking about?" She shot back, trying to keep her voice steady, but the tremble betrayed her. But before Tony could answer, the explosion rocked the room again, making the walls shudder. A cacophony of screams broke out as pieces of the ceiling crumbled, dust raining down like ashes. Victor shouted for calm, but his voice drowned beneath the rising chaos. Eli felt trapped, her heart pounding furiously against her ribcage. And then, the true twist. "Eli," Marcus said, voice dripping with malicious glee, "you're not just a bystander. They set you up to take the fall. All your life, they've been using you like a pawn in a game." A wave of betrayal crashed over her, choking her. "What do you mean? How could this be?" And just as everything threatened to collapse, the world tilted. The walls gave way, an avalanche of betrayal burying her under the weight of truth. As the chaos swirled, a new realization hit. She wasn't the only pawn here. Suddenly, the building trembled, shaking violently as sirens began to wail, drowning out the panic. Eli stumbled back against a wall, breathless, as a blinding light flooded the room. Shadows twisted and danced, blending into a collective terror. In the chaos, Victor's eyes widened with fear that morphed into outright panic. "No, you can't do this!" His frantic voice echoed as Eli felt the ground beneath her start to buckle. Before anyone could process the urgency, a figure burst through the smoke. A tall man, dressed in a dark suit, strode confidently into the room. He was unfamiliar, but emanated authority. "Everyone, stay calm." His voice was commanding, almost magnetic. "Who the hell are you?" Tony snapped, stepping forward. "I'm here to finish what was started," the stranger declared, ice in his tone. His eyes locked onto Eli, and in that moment, her heart sank. She felt a chilling connection that sent shivers down her spine. "Eli, it's time you understand your true legacy." "What?" Eli whispered, confusion morphing into dread. "I know who you really are," the man continued, voice lowering almost conspiratorially. "You're not just some custodian. You come from blood that runs deep in this game." Your father. He was a key player, someone who saw the truth and intended to expose it. And now, you are his heir. Gasps erupted in the crowd, disbelief rippling through. Eli's mind whirled, piecing fragments of memories that never aligned. What are you saying? But before he could reply, Mac groaned, fighting to get up, bloodied and desperate. You have to stop this. You all have to leave, now. Leave? Why would we leave? Marcus sneered. We've barely scratched the surface. This is just the beginning. Then Eli felt it. A surge of energy, a bright pulse of understanding. Am I really connected to this? Something twisted deep inside her. Her father was more than she thought. The foundation of everything you believed is a lie, Eli. The man pressed, each word a dagger to her heart. Your family is intertwined with darkness, but you can choose differently. And suddenly, the world around her cracked open, revealing the truth she was never prepared to hold. Victor, with his chaotic ambition, was nothing but a pawn too, just like her. The walls of trust crumbled, and the figure stood there, a specter of the past. It was as if the entire narrative she had known shattered into 1,000 shards, reflecting haunting truths about her legacy. Eli! Her mother's voice cut through again, but now it felt distant. It was harder to grasp. Listen to me! Then another explosion outside rocked the building once more, a roar threatening to swallow them all, and Eli realized everything was about to shatter. In that moment, as she stood at the precipice of revelation and despair, a new fear. She wasn't just a part of this chaos. She was the storm. What happened next could change everything. Eli's heart raced as panic surged through the room. Smoke billowed, enveloping everything in a shroud of chaos. The strangers loomed, shadows against the flickering lights, a storm gathering just beyond their grasp. Max struggled, pushing himself up, desperation etched into his features. Get out, now, he coughed, his wound stark against his skin. Victor, trembling, clutched Eli's shoulder. You have to understand. They'll use you, just like they did your father. A flash of anger ignited in Eli. When he spoke, the desperation, the fear, twed her gut like a knife. Am I just a pawn in your game? Mac! Tony called, ignoring the unfolding chaos. Panic carved lines in his face as he pushed through the crowd. What do we do? We need a plan. Eli's mind raced. She couldn't let the fear consume her. Not now. Listen, she shouted, voice piercing through the confusion. If Marcus is right, we need to know the truth. Together, not against each other. The murmur of the crowd swelled, some nodded, uncertain but willing to follow her lead. There, amid the fear, hope ignited, flickering like a candle in a storm. Mac rose to his feet, gritting his teeth against the pain. Eli's right. We can't fight alone. If we share our truths, we can expose the lies. Victor's grip slackened. For the first time, fear and vulnerability swirled in his eyes. What if it's too late? They're already coming for us. Then we stand together, Eli replied, her voice steady, despite the chaos swirling around them. We take back what's ours. Marcus laughed bitterly, but the tremble in his voice betrayed him. And you think standing together changes anything? You're still caught in the same web. Eli met his gaze, fierce determination anchoring her. Maybe, but we have to try. I refuse to be another victim of your games. The crowd simmered, uncertainty mixing with the fire Ale ignited. Tony stepped forward, his resolve solidifying. I've got a way out, a back route we can take. He glanced at Mac, urgency coloring his tone. but we have to move now. I'll cover you! Mac shot back, his body teetering on the edge yet resolute. No, you're hurt! Victor yelled, panic creeping back in. Enough, Victor! Eli shouted, slicing through the fear swirling around them. If we don't move, we're trapped. Together! With a collective breath, they turned, moving as one toward the back of the room. The lights flickered ominously above them, but Eli felt a spark of hope quirk at the edges of her fear. Maybe, just maybe, this moment would define them. As they reached the exit, the sound of sirens blared outside, a reminder that the storm was upon them. Go, go, Tony urged, pointing to the door just as the air filled with tension. They burst outside into the night, breathless. The cool night air struck like a shock, awakening their senses. They were met with chaos, officers attempting to secure the area, flashes of blue and red casting haunting shadows over everything. Where do we go? Someone shouted over the din. They're everywhere. Eli's heart raced, dread swirling within her. But then, clarity. Follow me. We'll head to the old district. It's quieter. We can figure everything out there. Rushing through the streets, they felt the weight of 10,000 eyes on their backs, the atmosphere thick with repercussions. Each hurried step united them in purpose, determination battling the shadows of their past. Eli felt her identity interweave with those around her, a strange comfort amid the chaos. And as they fled toward the unknown, she realized they were all bound by secrets deeper than she had ever imagined. When they finally reached the old district, breathless and worn, the crowd began to settle. They were safe, for now, but not free. Eli looked around at the familiar faces, a mural of pain, resilience, and hope painted into place. Then Victor stepped forward, hesitance wrapped in every fiber of his being. I'm sorry. Eli's heart twisted. Sorry wasn't enough, but it was a start. And she realized this was just the beginning. The whispered truths, the hidden betrayals, all beckoned them to uncover what had remained buried for so long. As they stood together, breathing in the weight of a shared moment, uncertainty lingered. What lay ahead wasn't clear, but Eli no longer stood alone. In that flickering light of hope, the sirens faded into the distance, leaving them standing on the brink of a new dawn. You must subscribe now to make sure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the